Hello and welcome to this session where we're going to look at colouring in this sunflower, and we're going to be using pencils to do it today. So the colours that I'm going to be using are yellow, orange and red for the petals, and we'll be using brown, grey and a pencil, HB pencil. So let's start off with adding or laying down our yellow on the petals. And the thing to remember when doing this is that we want to put it down very lightly onto the petals, colour it very lightly rather than it being too deep in colour. We can always add as you're going along. That's the good thing about pencil. Pencil's about adding layers rather than just quickly going in there quite hard. But you can go over, take out some with an eraser, but it's better to try not to. But it's also a technique, so hopefully one day we'll have a chance to look at that together. I do have my eraser wrapped up with cling film because I find that the paper can get quite falls apart after a little while of usage or love. So I find doing that I can cover it and it will stay clean as well as much as possible. Okay, so as I said, we're going to start off by laying down our yellow on all the petals. So I'm just going to lightly, if you're not sure how light your what's the word now? Your tension. Oh dear. It's going to be one of those, is it? Your tension, or your pressure, in fact, that's the word I was looking for. Your pressure of your pencil onto your paper. The thing to do is to keep wavering it down like this until you see a bit of colour, and then that's how you know that you've found your pressure. And also when holding the pencil, you notice that I'm not holding it down here. I'm holding it further away so that I'm not pressing down too hard. What I'm doing is I've rested my hand on the table, and I'm using the slight movement of my wrist to do the colouring. So I'm holding it like this, and sometimes I might change it to this, or it doesn't matter. You find which way is comfortable for you, and again you may change from one to the other. So just gently, as you can see, it's really light, you can barely see it. We're just going to go round and colour all the petals lightly in yellow. And just going all the way around. And as you can see, it's very light, you can barely just about see it on the screen. And I'm not worried too much about covering every single part of the petal, leaving out any white spaces, because it can add to the petals feeling, looking even more gentle. And as we're going on and we're creating the petals, the shadings, we'll be adding more yellow on top of it, so it will begin to look darker. So we don't want to start it too dark, because we still want to be able to maintain that light look. I'm just going around. See a little bit there. And I just want to show this part. There's actually a gap here. The petal is this side and this side. Okay, that gap is where this leaf is covering across here. I hope you can see that, and this is the gap. I'm just going to go all the way around. And it took me a while to work this part out. It was basically looking at the way that looking at the leaf first, and then there's a gap. So then I looked at what's the other side of the gaps. That's the reason why I came up with, I feel, because all the others are on top. So whatever here would have been on top as well, but there's nothing there. So that's the reason why I feel that there's a gap there. And I'm just going to finish off going around. And the good thing about this as well is that it actually is really easy in terms of the way that the shading and the depth and getting the style and movement is. It's just about thinking about where you want to lay and think about where the shadings are happening. So the reason why I'm saying shading or even shadows is that we're not going to be looking at where the light source is coming from. We're just going to be looking at what is overlapping another petal and where the shadows are being cast. So the other thing to think about with shadows as well is to think of it right up to the edge. So here, for example, I can see that this two are above this. So I have to make sure with my orange in my hand that I'm actually going very lightly. Again, you shouldn't be able to see it, like this. And I'm going around. I can see that this is behind this one. And again, this is mapping it out. As you're going around, you may change your mind or you want to add some more, etc. So this is just a quick mapping. So around here, I could feel that this part is behind here. This part looks like it's on top. Yeah, so this part is on top, and then all of this is on top. So you see what I mean. You're hearing me speak out loud. So these two, this one is behind these two. You see, I'm only lightly putting it down. There's a gap here or a fold here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the orange. I'm going to do the same here. You can see that this is over top of this. I'm just going to add a touch there. And here you can see that this one is overlapping that one and that one, because this one is behind that one. So I'm going to go in one at a time. So this is under here. So I'm just going to put a bit of orange there. And then these two are on top of this one. So I'm going to put the shadow onto this one. And then around here, what I'm going to do is, again, I can see that this one is overlapping that one. So I want to put the shade or the shadow on that side. and you can see it's very lightly I am putting down the orange. And again I can see that this one is behind here and here. Although it's not touching, it is clearly lower but under. So I'm going to again put some of the orange here. Please feel free to turn your image around, because I'm keeping it like this so that I'm not making myself dizzy, much less yourselves. So again, I'm still looking. I can see that these two are on top of this one. Okay, so there's a few other things there, but let's do this bit. But that also looks like it's slightly overlapping here. So I'm going to take a bit of the orange, just a little bit around here, and I'm looking at the lines as well. The lines are telling me as well where there is a deep depth, if you like, by the number of lines or the thickness. So for example here, the bottom of the lines are quite thick. It's the same here, so we know that there is supposed to be some depth. So here it's behind these two. Yeah, so behind these two. So this one is over the top of this one and this one. So let's just add a bit more of the yellow here. And then it's on top of this one, these two. And also there's a little one behind there. So let's do a bit of the shading here. And then here, we've already done that because this bit is over here. And I'm looking at, as I'm going along, there's some of the petals that's got some movement to them. So we're going to be looking more into those movements as we get there. So this one is behind these two, but it's really deep behind. Can you tell? Because it's got those lines there and they're quite deep. And then we're going to look across to these two, having a look. It looks as if this one and this one is on top of this one here. So I'm going to put the shadow in here, and then the shadow on this side, so it shows that this is on top. Remember, please turn your image round. I'm only just keeping it like this so that it's not moving around too much. And here, this is what I'm talking about with this sort of the movement. So there's a movement here, so I'm just going to take the orange again and just go over it a little bit. And this is marking, this is what I like to call it, as marking where the shadows are. So there is a little bit of a dark one there, but I'm still going to put the orange over the top. So because then it gives that same, it gives a color rather than just a dark spot. And I'm going to do the same here. I can see that these two are over this one, and it really is behind both of them, especially this side. So I'm going to take the orange and gently go up. Go up again, and then here the same thing. I can see this one's behind these two, and this I feel is of the same petal, so I'm going to treat it like that. All of it's behind all of these. These two feel like they're side to side rather than on top of each other, but it's still getting the shade from here. Okay, and the same here. And I'm keeping in mind, as I was saying, that there are some shapes like here. So let's see, we're here now. So this one is behind these two. colour there. And then this has a lovely movement, which is underneath this, a little bit on top of there, and there's a little gap in between there. So I'm going to start off with this part, which is under here, like this, and then I'm looking at this part, which is just over this one. So I'm going to create a bit of the shade here with the orange. And then here I can see that there's an overlap, a nice, or even a curve with swaying. So I'm going to put some orange here in this gap here, it's V sort of bit, and then I'm looking at the curve here. So I'm going to put some orange, but only right down the bottom of it, like so, and thinking about following the curve like this. And I'm going to leave it like that for now. And I'm going to go over this bit here, because I can see this is covering this one, and also this one is covering it as well. And then it changes up there. We'll have a look as we get there. So this is on top, so I'm going to create the shading, or the shadow rather, with the orange all the way up there, but very lightly. And then so this bit is over the top up to, yep, up to there. So that petal is over the top, like so. But this bit now is on top of there. So to show that, I'm going to put a bit of the orange in there, like so, just slightly up, and leave it like that. And again, now we're looking at this one is behind this, so we're going to show this little bit here, and it is still behind here and here. Okay, so it's all behind here, but it's slightly atop higher than here. So I'm just taking the orange and going up here slightly, and also you can see that this is casting a shadow over here. Bit of the orange, and we're nearly all the way around. We've just got this bit here, so it's under here. We go up. You see, as much as possible I'm using the edge of the pencil when I'm going to the edge of a part of the petal, like so. And then here, same, these two look above that bit, but it does also seem to me like it might be part of this movement here. I'm going to leave it like that for now. And then the very last parts, these two are above here, so we want to cast a shadow on this petal, like so. And the same here, this one's on top of here, and then this one is under these two, so this has got the shadow. And now let's go all the way around with the orange here. Again, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the feeling of the petals going underneath here. So let's keep going, just gently add it around the edges. like so. You see I'm slightly coming up a bit more because what I'm doing is I'm following the lines. Not too much, just following them up just a little bit, just to about there. So for example, I'm not going to go all the way up there with the orange, or even putting the orange on that line there. We're going to use the grey for that. There we go. So the next part is we're going to be using the red, and the red we're going to put around the edge in here. So what I mean is that I'm going to be adding it here because I want the red to be the deep orange, if you like, and it's going to have the shading or the shadow from this part here. So that's the reason why I'm only going to go around here. I will be going over and over that little bit there till you can see the slight red. Remember to keep it like so. See, I'm just going back and forth. I'm not worried about it going over into this part. It's a reflection, and also you won't see as much once we colour, and it just adds to the the colour dimension. I love different types of roses and sunflowers because you can get different types, can't you now? And you can see the red. I'm just going over it. I will be going over this, I think, just a slightly harder because I really want to see the red popping down the bottom here. Yeah, so I'm pressing a bit harder. So you have a look at yours as well and you decide. I'm looking at mine and I'm thinking, you know what, I'd like that red to be darker. And you see, I find it's really making it pop. Yeah, that's nice. I'm going all the way around. Like so. Alright, I like that. I'm going to bring it up slightly more. And that's the wonderful thing about doing this. It's never the same when you're doing it. And what I am doing with the red, I think what I'm going to do is to bring it up a bit more, but as it comes to the top, I'm going to lighten it. Yeah, so it's darker down here, but then as I go up, I'm taking more and more of the pressure off the red. Like so. So I'm going in deeper here, and then as I come up, I'm going to come up just a little bit but lighter. I think, yeah, I think I like that. And then what I'm going to do is to go over it with the orange. Okay, so I'm going to get the orange and I'm just going to go over the red a little bit, very lightly, and bring it up. So I'm bringing the color up so that it blends nicely into the yellow. And do the same here, so very lightly, because what is happening as well is we're softening the red so it's not as harsh but still strong. So I'm going just where I put the red. And now what I'm doing is I'm looking at it and I think there's areas where I could add the red as well. So here, for example, I'm only going to just add it a little bit along here. So in this little gap, just slightly, but where it's dark, I'm going to add the red. So I think as I'm going to look around, wherever that's a dark bit, so for here, for example, I'm going to put some red over the top of it. It just changes that dark area to have some color. So all here, so have a look. I'm looking for all the areas like this that have dark parts. So down here, and go over it actually with the orange at the same time, because then it's done. So in the same way, because I could tell you I've already forgotten where I put this. I lay down the color, so I think let's do it at the same time. So I'm going to pick the red again. I'm just looking for where, maybe here a bit. I'm going to go over the red with the orange. And I've got the red again in my hand and I'm looking at other places. So here, don't think there's any point with the orange here, but here and here I am pressing slightly harder in the very darker areas, but lighten it up with the orange. And down here, just softening it a bit. Looking again, where else? Here, you see a dark bit here, so I've gone in with my red. And I'm going to go over it with orange. And then let's have a look. I think I can leave the other bits for now. Let's leave it like that. And now I'm going to get the yellow and I'm going to quickly just brush over everything again. Just very lightly, just brush over all the reds, all the oranges. And remember, still do it very lightly, because we're going to go in and put some shading as well. you see, I'm just quickly going over the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grey, and I'm going to do some of it because I'm not sure if we're going to have the time to go through it all. I really would like us to finish this area in our hour, but I'm going to show you quick points so that you can sort of think and add more shading as you go along. So I'm going to start off with this one because of the shape and the movement of it. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking about how this is curving up this way and this is sort of bulging and coming over and joining it, almost like a flame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grey, and remember I'm holding it on the side as well, not pointing it because I want it to be still nice and soft. So I'm going to bring over this bit a bit of the grey, but hold it really lightly the same way. Remember, if you're not sure, just bring it from a height and bring it down like so. And then, because what I'm trying to do is to bring the shadow out more with the grey so that it gives that look and shade. Okay, where else can we look at? Here, for example, I'm going to bring in more shade on this side, and here on this side, and maybe some here. So really it's about anywhere where you see some movement. So here I can see some movement in there, some curve, yeah, any sort of round edges or curves like this. I can see one here because of the way that it's moving. Where else can we look at? This one. So I'm just going to go here in this space, and I'm looking at that. It looks like it's curved or folded over, so I'm just going to put a little bit of the grey here and a little bit here to help it along. And one more. Let's have a look at this shape here. So I'm going to put it in the middle like so, and then up like this. So now for these areas I'm just going to lightly bring it up to about here with the grey. Yeah, I'm just going over it slightly just to tone it down. And as you're going along, so for example this one has a little curve over it, so I'm just going to go in with the grey. So you can now think about going in like this with the point, so that I'm really going in there like this, and again in places like this I can now go in a bit harder with my pencil, my grey. Again, it's about putting the layers in, and then as you go around, you see you're really starting to get that fold here. So here the same thing. Now that I've gone round, I can have a look, and actually I can make it darker so that you really get that movement. One more, let's go back to here, for example. I put in a little bit of the shade, but now I can go back in with the end of the lead and go darker, but then the same, just soften it out a bit. Okay, so just quickly, you can see, you can just do this and go around. You could spend a lot of time going through and round and finding which area and shade. So now what I'd like us to do is to work on the middle. So I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to just go around quite quickly and I'm much more forcefully than we have been in the other parts. I'm now going to take the brown. Actually, let's use the grey first and go all the way around the bottom where you can see these lines. So you want to go right to the edge and as far up as the lines, and I am pressing harder for this part around here. For all of this I'll be pressing harder around there because we want it to be strong in depth. I'm just quickly going around with the grey, really pushing it in. And this is so that when I put the brown over it, it is darker. You see. So down where those depths need to be. There you go. It's darker. So now I'm going to stay with the brown and I'm going to go all the way around here, but I'm just marking off around here how far in I'm going to go. So I'm going to go around to here. I want to mark it as well because it's a good guide. So now I'm just going to go in with the brown, and you can be a little more, put a bit more pressure but not too much, because again it will create too much of a harsh colour straight away, quite deep. So it's better we go over and over it. Okay, we'll be coming back to this one. So we're going to take the pencil and we're now going to colour in this part, and when you do, I am pressing down slightly, giving it a bit more pressure, but what's good to do is to not, when you're doing it, you can't do it so you can't see any of the pencil markings, so that it all comes as one grey like this. Okay, so now I'm going to go over it with the grey because that will soften it. You can go straight in with the black. I like doing it like this. find I can have a bit more control of how dark I'd like it. So I'm going to go over again quite firmly. Now I'm going to push it out a bit more with the brown. Okay, so I'm going to put the brown down like this. I'm going to use the pencil a bit, just lightly, over the top. And then I'm going to really go in with the pencil around this edge, just to make it sharper. And I'm going to do the same around here, because I'd like it to show that this is creating a shadow over that middle part. I am trying not to go over the yellow parts. If it doesn't matter. It's just that I'm trying not to go over it. I'm now going to take my pencil and define this area around here. Again, it doesn't matter if the pencil goes up on there, but really I'm pressing really hard now. And the other reason why I like using the pencils, for the same reason, it can create this depth, but it's not as harsh as using black. So now, to finish off, we're going to go round with the grey, just to darken this. And I'm going to go over with the brown. Like so. So just one more thing to look at with the pencil. The other thing you can do is similar to what we've been doing with the grey. So you can, let's make sure I've got some lead. Yep, that helps. There we go. So you can go in with the pencil in the same way. You might even prefer to use the pencil. You see, I'm just going, I'm even adding just extra little bits with the pencil, so you can see you can do both. I'm just going round where the folds are, the same thing. You can see the pencil is actually creating a much deeper shadow. I'm just quickly going round just to give you some idea that I'm looking for those depths. You can see I'm just going round, so you go round and have a look. That's yours. Decide where you want the depth to be. I quite like the pencil look actually, because I can even add it here. Add a few more lines, like so. Yeah, like there. If I feel that, like in that case, I've gone a little bit too much over the red, I can bring the red back in, like so. Okay, so you can see where the shadows, you see, even though it's delicate, you can still bring in the shades. Like here, for example, I can get my eraser and I can take off a little bit, just stroking, like so. Yeah, just a little stroke over the top of the areas that I want to tone down, but also you can use it as a way of blending. So for example here, I'd like to just blend it in a bit more. With the background, and also it softens, you see it's sort of softening the areas as well, like so. Maybe a bit here. So there's lots of combination, you see, of the way that you can use the colors, create shadings, depth, and you continue to play around with it. So for example, now that we've done all of that, we can go over now with the yellow to now bring in the color of the sunflower. And this is why I was saying to not put it so heavy in the beginning, just create a foundation. So now when you go round, you can see I'm just quickly almost scribbling over the top. Just a quick scribble, just so that we've done it all together. There we go. Alright, so yes, it's got a bit more depth to it, but it's still light as well. And you can continue adding more yellow if you want it more yellow. It's your design and it's up to you. So we're at the end of our session together, colouring in the sunflower. I look forward to seeing some of your sunflowers in the group. And on that note, have a wonderful day, of what's left of it, depending on where you are and when you're listening to it. So thank you and goodbye.